Islip Speedway 10 years later, plus the Riverhead Raceway Awards Banquet, Mid-Island Speedway go-kart action, and a look ahead to 1995. Racing season has come and gone here on Long Island, but not without a lot of memories. Today's Modified Report is brought to you by TNF Auto Body of Huntington Station, home of the Flying Dutchman Fred Harback, and your complete auto body specialist for more than 40 years. It was a classic year for the NASCAR Modifieds at Riverhead Raceway. The veterans brushed aside the young Lions to control the division. And once again, the most dominant force was the Joe Bertuccio-owned team spearheaded by driver Don Howe. But it was an uphill battle. At the mid-season marker, Howe and company found themselves 7th in points.
This year got off to a shaky start. We had some good finishes, but we had some DNFs in there. So all in all, it turned out real well for us.
And unlike last year's championship season, this year, the Gershaw Recycling Team won races, including the Mod Tour event in June.
That's the biggest win of my career, definitely is.
With a new car in the stables for next year, Don Howe will be trying to score a hat trick of championships. But there's a list of challengers ready and waiting to knock Howe off his pedestal. Top 5 point men, Ed Brunhutzel Jr., the Park brothers, Bill and Bob, and Tom McCann all have one thing in common. None have ever won the Riverhead track title.
After being 7 years away, to do as well as we did, we had these guys take notice, and I think we'll have a little surprise for them for next year.
I've done a lot in racing. I've never won any championships, and a Riverhead championship would be great because it's my home track, and I definitely would like to get it before I retire.
The Riverhead Raceway Banquet. It's time for drivers and their crews to let loose after a long, hard racing season. And no one deserves the fun more than this year's Charger champ, Larry LaFontaine.
Today's Charger Report is brought to you by Mr. Motorsports of Riverhead. Mr. Motorsports now provides stylish custom pit crew uniforms, as well as all your NASCAR motorsports apparel.
Your 1994 Charger champion, Larry LaFontaine.
For the past 2 seasons, Larry LaFontaine and company have had to deal with stretches of bad luck. After consecutive second-place finishes in the Charger division, LaFo and crew have finally broken through.
Oh, I tell you, it was the crew, and it's great. It's great. Finally get it done, you know.
Consistent top 10 performances with 1 victory put the McDonald's racing team on top. Satisfied with this season's success, Larry says it's time to move onward and upward into the late models.
I'm leaving. I'm not defending anymore. I did everything I could, I think, in the Charger division. Now I want to start all over and be a rookie and go up the next division and try to get a couple things done there.
LaFontaine isn't the only Charger driver to break ranks. Third-place points man Howie Brody is also taking the big step up.
I'm going to move to late model. I got a call from a couple of friends that own a late model, a 79 late model. Joe and Al own it from Patrick Auto Repair, and they offered me to ride, and I said, love to drive it.
With Larry LaFontaine and Howie Brody out of the picture, the future may very well be in the hands of former champ Mike Herold, this year's runner-up Danny Grennan, and Rookie of the Year, Joe Hartman.
Today's Late Model Report is brought to you by All Pro Auto Parts, coming to a store near you.
Driver of the Repco Distributors, number 24 from Riverhead, Ed Denseski, your late model champion.
The hometown boy finally did it. Eddie Denseski grew up watching races at Riverhead, hoping one day he too could become champion. His dream became a reality last Saturday night as he picked up his 1994 late model championship laurels.
The caliber of competition this year with Richie Resnick's car, Paul McInerney, and modified champ Dan Giovanelli, just for us to be in the same field with those guys, we're really happy this year.
Denseski had to fend off the late season challenges of Paul McInerney. Now both drivers only won 1 race, but Denseski proved to be more consistent. Now after 2 straight years without a title, McInerney seems to be itching to get back into championship form.
Usually we don't start getting motivated till like about 3 weeks before the season starts. But this year, Richie and a couple of the guys started pulling the motor out already. They're going to give it to Jack, because Jack is always screaming, get me the motor early, you know. So, you know, we'll do something over the winter and start freshening the car up a little bit.
A car to keep an eye on next year is Steve Tooker's Levitt's Furniture late model. It's been said before that all Tooker needed was a little backing behind him, and Steve seems as confident as ever. What do you expect for next year?
10 wins and a championship.
One thing is certain, everyone will be gunning for Denseski, who will be back to defend his title despite purchasing a house in North Carolina.
We're going to give it our best shot. You know, a little bit of luck. We've got the personnel to help us out. Hopefully, with a little bit of luck, we'll be there again.
News 12's Long Island Trackside is brought to you by Hempstead Harley-Davidson. #1 in sales, #1 in service.
Marty, I thought you tuned this bike.
I tune them and you break them. You don't know how to ride.
I've been riding this bike since it was brand new.
Hey, guys. Having some trouble?
He broke it.
I know you guys. You gave me a great deal on my Harley.
See that, Marty? It's the deals. I remember the deals.
And you made my Harley sound and look just right.
It's the service, Richie, the service.
Visit Hempstead Harley-Davidson today. Ultras, Sportsters, even Road Kings in stock, ready for immediate delivery.
Cheap John's prices are so low because John and his buyers always get the best deals.
I know it's cheap. You know it's cheap, but it's not cheap enough for John.
Their prices are amazing. How do they get these prices?
Tough? You bet I'm tough. I'm the assistant to the ultimate deal maker. And it's gotta be cheaper, cheaper, cheaper.
Cheap is smart, and the smartest shoppers know Cheap John's has Long Island's best bargains.
It just doesn't get any cheaper than Cheap John.
You'll save money, money. Great prices, easy. Super service at Pizza Richard. You'll save money, money. Great prices, easy. Super service at Pizza Richard. You'll save money, money. Great prices, easy. Super service. All you have to do is whistle at Pizza Richard.
You've got to see this beauty perform. Goes from 0 to 70 fast. So quiet, you don't even know it's running. It's a high-efficiency slant-fin boiler. Even when it's below 0, this computer-designed boiler quickly heats the house. Reduces heating bills, too. Slant-fin uses metal push nipples, not flimsy gaskets which can leak. Replace your old boiler with a slant-fin. It just can't be outperformed.
Reliable heat from the world of slant-fin.
It puts chills up and down my spine to be here, where the Islip Speedway once stood. Many a racing battle was fought here. And when the Speedway closed in 1984, a part of Long Island racing died with it. I can remember as a kid racing around the outer banks of the track with my brother, pretending to be our favorite drivers. And that's what this place was all about. A whole heck of a lot of fun.
Islip was Islip, and they had a tremendous amount of cars, and they had great fans.
It had some kind of, you know, charisma all to itself. You know, it was really good.
I don't know, there was something about that place. It was just the place to race.
It was like home to everybody.
The best in the business in this whole United States raced at Islip Speedway at one time or another. Richard Petty, Bobby Allison, and of course the midgets with the Johnny Coy and Russ Clark and, you know, those kind of guys. And the stock cars with Hendrickson and D'Angelo and Harback, you know. The list goes on and on. This program isn't long enough to name all the names.
Islip Speedway held a special place in the hearts of all Long Island racing fans. The 5th of a mile oval opened in 1947, and during the next 4 decades, it became one of the most talked about tracks in the country.
No matter where you went, everybody said, man, how can you race at that place? It's so small, you know. But it was just so much fun. I mean, and it was fast. I mean, for the size of it, it was real fast.
And the men who went fast at Islip Speedway are the drivers people still talk about today. Drivers like Charlie Jazombek.
Charlie used to tell me that Islip Speedway was 2 drag strips connected with corners. And that's the way he drove it.
He was spectacular. I mean, he wasn't as smooth as race driver there was, but he was very aggressive and he got the job done.
He said, if you can master the outside groove at Islip, you're going to be a winner.
I was interviewed one time and they asked me the difference of Charlie Jesumbach and Richie. And I always say the same thing. Charlie was like a bull in the china closet and Richie was like a dancing ballerina.
If there's one driver who epitomizes Islip Speedway, it's Fred Harbach. The track was the Flying Dutchman's home throughout his racing career.
It was like a family all the time, family deal all the time. You can bring the kids, you know, and have a good time.
Fred is tied for the most track championships at Islip with Jim Hendrickson, and many drivers say Gentleman Jim was the best pure race car driver that ever graced Islip Speedway.
My most respected driver at Islip was Jim Hendrickson. He was a very clean racer and a very good chauffeur.
I guess I was with some of the best there, Alan, Charlie, and Freddie, and Axel, and Georgie, and we were all, you know, who knows, like Charlie said to me one night, he said, how good are you and how good am I? He said, what could you do if you had my car? And what could I do if I had your car? He said, nobody really knows how good we are, you know. But you look at Charlie and his record speaks for himself, you know. How good, I don't know. Guess we was all right.
But drivers did not only come to race at Islip Speedway, they came to have a lot of fun, too. The late Al D'Angelo was living proof of that.
He used to tell me, half the people like me, the other half hate me, but they all paid to get in, and we're going to give them a show.
I used to go there once in a while as a spectator and heckle Al D'Angelo. You know, everybody heckled him, and that's when he crashed and get out and put the skull and crossbones up on the antenna and drive like a wild man.
The racing was spectacular at Islip Speedway, whether it be the old-time Grand National cars, the modifieds, or the world-famous figure 8 events. But that's not all this track was noted for.
Islip was famous for after the races, not just during the races. After the races, they had some wild parties.
The last race day, we stayed till it was 6 o'clock in the morning. Had a lot of fun.
The lady that owned the racetrack, she had, you know, her way of doing business in it. And she just sold the racetrack, and she didn't care. She just wanted to sell it and get out. And I think Barbara and Jim would have purchased the track to keep the track running, but it didn't work out that way. And I guess everybody felt really bad about it.
There was a lot of history there, you know, a lot of history. But that place can talk. Wow, you know.
A look back at Islip Speedway was brought to you by Oval Speed Unlimited of Massapequa Park, always catering to the oval track racer. And remember, the 10th anniversary Islip Speedway reunion is coming up Sunday, December 11th at the Huntington Hilton in Melville. And over the winter, also keep an eye out for a special edition of Trackside about Long Island racing throughout the years. Today's Legends Report is brought to you by J&J Legends Race Cars of Riverhead.
They bring back the bygone era of auto racing, but they're brand new. We're talking about Legends race cars, and they're only available at J&J Legends Race Cars of Riverhead. John Bagshaw is one of the men responsible for bringing these affordable racing replicas to Long Island.
Base car is $11,275. We could have a car for you probably within less than a week. We have one in stock now, a sedan that is ready to go, and they basically caught up on production, so now we can get a car to you relatively fast.
J&J Legends owner Jack Bagshaw finished second in points during this year's inaugural season. With the Legends' popularity on the rise, Riverhead Raceway has announced a major schedule change for next year.
The greatest news we've heard lately is in '95, we'll be racing our shows on Saturday nights. The exact number of shows has not been settled yet, or the exact dates, but our shows will be on the Saturday nights, and this is going to be a big boom for this series.
And it looks like the competition for next year will be getting a little stiffer.
I expect we'll have at least 30-some cars there at the beginning of the season. It's going to be very competitive. The heats races should be very competitive because you're going to have to really qualify to get in the main events. So I think we're going to be putting on some real good shows for the fans next year.
Some great things are on the horizons for the Legends cars in 1995. But let's not forget John Bagshaw, Riverhead Raceway's first Legends car champion. John Bagshaw took home the championship trophy at the Riverhead Raceway banquet last Saturday, but this season was no Sunday drive for him. A few drivers came on strong late in the year, including Rob Stidd and Danny McNamara, who both picked up wins. For Long Island Trackside, I'm Paul Schneller.
The road to good car maintenance is paved with faulty parts, lame excuses, and bad advice that push your patience and wallet to the limit.